Hello everybody, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home for a very long time. I mean, this video is going to be at least 25 minutes, I believe, probably more. Well, before we actually get into the video, I need to warn you guys that this video is going to be with spoilers. I am not holding back whatsoever. I'm going to discuss everything in this video, so you've been warned. If you haven't watched the movie yet, what are you doing? Okay, what are you doing? Go do it right now. It's so good. It's great. So do it right now and then come back and watch this video. I need to watch hours, please. So let's begin our discussion of Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm calling this a discussion, but actually it's kind of like a discussion, review, analysis, all in one. It's a combo thing. Hope you guys enjoy it. Well, first and foremost, I want to say that Spider-Man No Way Home was my most anticipated film of 2021. I am not kidding. I don't care what you think about me after this statement. This really was my most anticipated film. And that's because of my love for this web slinger, but also the potential of this movie. All the rumors going around with all the three Spider-Men supposedly being in this movie. I mean, of course I was so excited for it. But one thing that I wasn't expecting from this movie was actually getting a decent Spidey movie. I was just here to watch three Spider-Man on the big screen, to see Tobey and Andrew come back and just get that kind of nostalgia, and that was what I was expecting from this movie. But I was shocked when I went into No Way Home and I got a good Spider-Man movie. In fact, a great one. When it comes to Tom Holland's Spidey films, honestly, they were never my favorites. They lacked a lot of things, the fundamentals of Spider-Man that make Spider-Man this incredible hero that we all love. And so they just were never my favorite interpretation of the character. But here, MCU finally gets it right. This movie takes the weak points of previous ones and actually turns them into something strong in this one. I mean, let's start with MJ's character, which I never really cared for in these films. I mean, she was just kind of like the quirky, little bizarre girl that kind of liked Peter, and Peter kind of developed feelings for her in Far From Home. It just kind of happened, and I didn't really care. I didn't really get any chemistry between them. But here, it all changes because they're not only just cute in this movie, but the relationship is actually really healthy here. Like they are two people that support each other and care for each other, and it's just amazing. And then we have Ned, who's still a clown, but I mean it's okay. It's forgivable. Aunt May is another character that I really didn't care about in the Home trilogy, let's call it that. And that's just purely because she was just kind of useless. She didn't contribute to the plot, like, at all, basically. And she just was kind of there in the background. But here, her character has an integral role to the story. First of all, we understand why she has been supporting Peter and his Spider-Man deeds, which it kind of seemed crazy to me in previous ones. Like, how is she supporting this like 16-year-old kid, putting himself in danger every day? But here it kind of makes sense because she gives him that speech of with great power comes great responsibility, and she herself has this organization of hell and which helps people. And of course, she also encourages Peter to do the same, to do the right thing. And it finally all fits into place in this movie. We're going to talk about Aunt May in a second and just the tragedies that Peter has to go through in this movie, but I really like this change overall. So let's talk about Aunt May's death here. It was honestly heart-shattering. At first, when she got impaled by Green Goblin's glider, I was sure that she was dead because that was pretty harsh, but then she gets up and I was like, oh, come on, MCU, you didn't have the courage to do that. But then I understood everything. And when she gave that speech to Peter and then fell to the ground and died in his arms, I realized how genius this scene was, because she, with all the pain she's going through with that injury, she gets up just to go and tell Peter these important words and tell him that you did the right thing and that you should continue doing the right thing because you have this power, you have this responsibility. And she has a small bag and she covers her injury with that, basically, to not let Peter see that, basically. And then she falls and dies. After she does the right thing herself, she tells Peter those words and then dies. That was an insanely well-made scene, and man, was it was it really heartbreaking. I teared up several times in this movie. This was one of the scenes that made me tear up. Honestly, amazing. One of the complaints people had about the previous two films and this Peter Parker specifically was that Iron Man was kind of like the Uncle Ben for him. I mean, he wasn't, but Peter lacked that mentor in his life that taught him to be a hero that he is. But here, instead of bringing back Uncle Ben's memories or anything like that, MCU decides to take Aunt May, who raised Peter, to fill that role, and she really fits that role really well, knowing that she does all of the good deeds with her organization, helping people out on daily basis, and it was perfect. And man, just thinking about that scene, man, makes me so sad. But once again, bravo, amazing. In this third movie, Peter finally has to learn that his actions has consequences. In the beginning, he's still this kid in the movie, but then towards the end, when things go really, really bad for him, he starts understanding that, yeah, he has to make those really difficult decisions and steps in order to do the right thing. Even if it's not good for him, he has to do it because that's the right thing to do. I'm talking about the ending of this film where he decides to let Doctor Strange go through with the spell that would make everybody forget who Peter Parker is, including obviously all of his loved ones. He makes that decision that in the beginning he wasn't able to do. Here, he finally agrees to it. He actually says it himself that Doctor Strange, do it, although Steven actually didn't want to really do that. But that's Peter's decision. And then when he goes to say goodbye to Ned and MJ, another scene that made me tear up, man. That was so sad. That moment they shared together, that one last kiss while the sun is rising from the background. The last few scenes of this film are absolutely brilliant. Peter going to the coffee shop that MJ works at in order to make her remember all that they've been through together and who he is, because that's what they agreed upon when they kissed for the last time. But then he goes in and then he sees Ned, and they both got into MIT. They're both happy. They're both doing really good. And then he sees that Band-Aid on MJ's forehead. He realizes that she's safe. In fact, she's much safer like this. And she's doing good for herself. And so he decides to not tell her anything. He takes his cup of coffee and then he leaves with a smile on his face. And that's who Peter Parker is. And the very last scene where Peter finally gets his own shitty rundown apartment in New York, he unboxes his stuff, and one of them has a book for math prep. He didn't get to go to college, but he'll keep on studying for his future. And then we see a table with a sewing machine, and there are a bunch of pieces of cloths colored red and blue, and then he gets a signal on his phone that there's crime he has to stop. He puts on his costume, his own costume. It's not any Stark Tech, it's Peter's handmade costume. He puts it on, jumps out of the window, and swings through New York to be the Spider-Man we all know and love. So essentially, this is Spider-Man's origin story. We all thought that one of the MCU's shticks with Spidey was that they skipped the origin story because we've seen it a billion times, but that's a lie, you know? The previous ones were actually building up to this. And actually, now that they exist and we know everything that Peter had gone through up until this point, we understand that, man, this Peter, by the end of this movie, is like the most depressing Peter of them all, because he has had so many experiences with the Avengers. There are so many people that knew him, that loved him, so many experiences he's had, and now he has no one. Nobody knows who he is. He is completely alone in this world. It's like the saddest thing ever, and yet it is perfectly Spider-Man. I've been talking about this movie for quite a bit now, but I still haven't mentioned this very minor, cameos of two actors. You might know them, or you might not know them. One of them is Tobey Maguire, the other is Andrew Garfield. I don't know, do you guys know these guys? Yeah, obviously, I mean, we all lost our shit, right? I mean, the audience went absolutely berserk when that happened, including me, obviously. Although I knew that was going to happen. Everybody knew that was going to happen. I mean, all the evidence is on the internet. But still, I knew that when I would actually see it, I wouldn't be able to contain myself. And man, it was amazing. When Ned opens the first portal, I didn't instantly realize what was going on because I thought that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire would appear during the Statue of Liberty fight. They would just jump into the action, help out Tom Holland's Spidey there. But no, he opens the portal and we get Spidey, and I didn't instantly realize it, but I hear people kind of being noisy in the theater, and I think I heard someone saying that, hey, that is not Tom Holland. And I'm like, the SpongeBob meme. I'm like, wait, what? And I then realized that, yeah, this guy that's running forward, this is a lanky boy. That's a lanky dude. That's Andrew Garfield. And yeah, he jumps into the scene, takes off his mask, and everybody goes insane, including me. I'm smiling now, remembering, and I've watched this movie twice already. And then from then on, everybody knew that the next portal would bring back our boy, Bully Maguire. Tobey Maguire appears in normal clothes, looking just amazing. And you know what? His smile, that Peter Parker innocent smile, it's just still embedded on his face. Like, he comes into this scene, and you're like, this is Peter Parker. Like, it's like he never forgot how to play this character, although it's been so long. He comes back with that innocent smile of Peter, and it was amazing. I'm glad MCU went with this approach rather than just throwing them right into the action. I like that they all go to the lab and make cures for all the villains, and they have like casual banter. That's what I wanted, and that's what I got. Honestly though, I want to talk about each scene and how perfect it is, but if I do that, this video will be 2 hours long, and I can't do that. So I'm just going to talk about some of my very favorite scenes. The very last fight sequence with all the 3 Spider-Man jumping into action together, swinging together, helping each other, and then posing like Spider-Man together. Holy shit, I need that shot right now in HD, but we're going to have to wait until April, I believe. April is when the Blu-ray comes out. I want to screenshot it and then hang it on my wall. Or maybe I'll call someone in to make murals on my walls because I need that. I need that image. It's perfection. People are incredible that they knew right from the start that Andrew Garfield would be the one saving MJ here and not Tom Holland. And man, that scene is just amazing. And it's also a great wrap-up for his character. He's been carrying that weight in his heart and on his shoulders all this time, and he finally gets this moment and he tears up. Honestly, all the emotions that Andrew Garfield displays in this movie almost feels like his own emotions. Like, his pure smile on this, in all of the scenes, it just seems like Andrew Garfield's smile to me. Like, I know how much Andrew Garfield loved this character, and I know how much this character means to him, and so I can imagine how incredible it was for him to come back here. He had to lie all this time that he wasn't in this movie, although we obviously knew. And then he finally gets to be in this movie, and you can see how much fun he's having in each scene, and how happy he is. And I just love him so much, man. I'm so happy that he got this moment. Thank you, Kevin Feige. As I already mentioned, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield have an amazing chemistry in this movie, and each scene that they're in, they steal the show. But I can't talk about every one of them in detail. I mean, this video has already been going on for too long, and we're not even at the end of it yet. So yeah, one of the scenes that I really loved was, and Tobey is the oldest, he's the wisest Spidey, and so when Andrew calls himself lame, he's instantly like, hey, you know what? Don't call yourself lame. You're saving people. You're a good guy, and you should appreciate yourself and all that. It was great. I just love that. And Andrew is kind of this most depressed Spidey. But honestly, that crown might be stolen by Tom Holland by the end of this movie. But still, a great moment. And then obviously, Tobey meeting Otto Octavius once again. Man, I teared up again. Okay, what are you gonna do about it? If you didn't tear up, something is wrong with you, okay? You don't have a heart. It's not, I'm just stating the facts here, okay? If you didn't cry, something's wrong, buddy, okay? This is a great scene. I mean, if you're a Raimi trilogy fan, this scene, it took your heart, okay? And warmed it. It warmed your heart and made you a happy person. That's how it works, okay? I don't make the rules. One last scene that I have to mention is when Tom Holland is beating the crap out of Green Goblin. He's about to murder him. He takes his glider, about to stab him. Then Tobey Maguire jumps into the scene and stops it. Stops Tom. He doesn't say anything. They don't exchange any words. He just looks at him. And, Tom Holland understands everything. He can't do that. He can't become a murderer. He can't become that thing, the very thing he hates. He can't really abide by Green Goblin's morality and rules. He is Spider-Man. He has to do the right thing. And it was amazing. Just amazing scene, amazing. I honestly, throughout this entire video, I'm just saying this is great, amazing, because it is. Okay, this movie is amazing. Okay, what do you want from me? Speaking of Green Goblin, let's talk about the villains of this movie. There are plenty of them, obviously, from the previous franchises, but one of them had to be in the forefront, and that's Green Goblin. And honestly, he's a perfect choice for this movie, because as he told Peter, Tobey Maguire's Peter in the Raimi trilogy, that his entire kind of morality was very flawed, he comes to tell Tom Holland the same thing, that you're trying to lead two lives. You're trying to get best of both worlds, but that's just not going to happen. And that you trying to do the right thing all the time, that's just very silly, basically. It perfectly fits into this film. And another thing that I want to talk about is that I like how in the Raimi trilogy, although I can't say Norman Osborn is, Peter's mentor, but Peter does look up to Norman Osborn, and then Norman gets impaled by his own glider and gets tragically kind of murdered. And then in this movie, for Peter, his mentor is Aunt May, and she gets killed and impaled by the same glider of Green Goblin. It's amazing how they did this, and I'm glad they chose William Dafoe's Green Goblin. And speaking of William Dafoe, holy shit, he is amazing. I mean, William Dafoe, first of all, he hasn't changed in all these years. I don't know how he's doing it. He has the same face, and man, he hasn't forgotten how to play this villain. He's still perfect. He steals each scene. His acting is absolutely top notch. And what's insane is that this guy is like, I forgot actually, I think he's 70 something. He's old. And yet his one condition to be in this movie was to do his stunt and to actually participate in the fight scenes. Because he's like, I don't want to just be in a few scenes to show my face. I want to actually be this character and get through these experiences. It's just amazing. The dedication, and you can see it. He shined in this movie, and he's spooky, man. Like Green Goblin and his laugh, it's in your head even after you watch the movie. That's just how perfect he is. He was perfect in the Raimi trilogy. He's perfect here as well. Alfred Molina's Otto Octavius he's a sweetheart. I mean, in the beginning, he's a bit of a grumpy man, of course, because of his, the arms that are controlling him. He's not happy, obviously, but then as soon as he gets cured, and he actually jumps into the fight and helps these Spider-Man. It was an amazing moment. I saw that scene where he helped Spider-Man. I was like, yeah, this is the Otto I love. This is the man I love. They did a great job there, and I'm glad that he's in this movie. Electro had somewhat of a role here as well. I liked the first fight where he just first appears and the dubstep plays. I remembered how, you know what? I wasn't a huge fan of the dubstep originally, but it's kind of cool hearing that in here. And I like that fight. His character wasn't all that super important in this film, but still fine. When it comes to Sandman and Lizard, they were just basically there. But here's the thing, I mean, these aren't flaws. Not every villain needs a spotlight. These villains were in the previous movies. They don't have to be fleshed out here. And the whole thing is that they've just, been brought into this world accidentally because of the spell that got, all messed up because of Peter. And so, they don't all need the spotlight, and I'm totally fine with what they did. In fact, what MCU decided to do with all the villains was amazing. After watching No Way Home for the second time yesterday, I realized even more that the soundtrack is really good in this movie. I mean, Michael Giacchino is a talented man, but in the previous two films, his talent and originality didn't really get to shine, but here they finally do. And the tone of this film obviously is darker, it's more emotional, more tragic, and the notes, they perfectly depict that. And I've been already listening to a few tracks kind of repeatedly. It's great. I mean, the action scenes also, I kind of forgot to mention Doctor Strange sequence with Peter, the fight between, Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. Amazing. I just absolutely love this movie, if you couldn't tell. Before I get comments telling me that I'm just a dumb fangirl, that I don't know anything. Look, yes, there are flaws in this movie, obviously. The biggest one being Doctor Strange's spell that apparently works on memory, right? People's memories. But somehow By the end of the film, nobody remembers Peter, although like the entire world shared information about Peter being Spidey on the internet. There are so many videos, articles everywhere. I mean, does the spell work on information as well on internet? Does that how it works? Also, Doctor Strange says that everybody will forget about him. I mean, including Doctor Strange. Although in the beginning, where he kind of jokes with Wong that you don't remember this party we had, right? But he remembers the party. So does this spell exclude him? There are obviously flaws. Yes, there are some logical gaps. Of course. I mean, when you make a movie this ambitious with multiverse, of course there are going to be flaws like this. But there are some cases, some rare cases, where I'll let these kind of flaws go. And they're not that major. Because this movie, it brought me so much joy and pure happiness that I'm willing to forgive these things. I'm willing to overlook them because overall, this movie is really strong. And I've already talked about everything I love about this movie. I mean, it does so many things right, so I'm willing to let these few things go. Overall, this movie exceeded all of my expectations. I mean, as the movie was approaching its end, I was thinking that I don't want to leave the theater. I don't want to go back to the real world. I want to keep watching this movie. And I don't remember the last time I've had this feeling. I've had this thought. It's been years. It was probably the last time I was a kid having these feelings. It's crazy. I left the theater and I kept thinking about it. I'm still thinking about it. And I watched it on like 15th December. And I'm still thinking about it. I'm going to keep thinking about it for a very long time. The level of like serotonin, dopamine, serotonin I got from this movie is insane. It's indescribable. But at the same time, I know that there are plenty of people, plenty of Spidey fans that shared these feelings together with me. And I'm so happy that I got to experience it. I'm so happy I'm a Spider-Man fan. And you know what? I kind of feel bad for those who are not Spidey fans. You know, you're missing out on so much. And you know, the more you're a fan, the more you're going to enjoy this movie, I believe. Because there's so many great great references, great lines, and iconic lines from the previous movies in here that just made me smile so much. I'm going to tell you guys one thing that's going to maybe sound ridiculous, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyways. As I was thinking about this movie afterwards, after I left the theater, I was thinking that, you know what? I'm glad I'm alive. I'm glad I've lived up until now and I've gone through all the negative things up until now to watch this movie, to get this experience. That's how happy this movie made me. And one last thing, I'm so thankful to Kevin Feige, John Watson, and literally like everybody who worked on this film and contributed to this film and made it possible. I mean, from the people who designed the costumes to the people who worked with sound, anybody, just everybody who did something in the set. I'm thankful to you guys. You made this movie possible and you made me and so many fans happy. I mean, there are so many things like I've stopped caring about as I've grown older. Things that I loved as a kid that I just don't really care about as much anymore. One of the things, I mean, one of the examples would be like Star Wars that I absolutely adored as a child. I mean, in my early teens and my childhood, Empire Strikes Back was like my favorite film. But now I just, haven't rewatched those movies in a long time. And not that I, dislike them, but like I don't care about Star Wars anymore. I don't care about the upcoming project. It just doesn't excite me anymore. But one thing that has remained is my love for Spider-Man. I loved him as a baby, and I still love him. As a kid, I loved this web slinger that was just this fun character, and then I grew a little bit older, and I started kind of relating to a few things that Peter Parker went through, and then you grow up even older and older, especially in my uni years. I started relating to Peter Parker even more. I mean, there are things that, especially in Spider-Man 2 and Raimi movies, that you just relate to. I mean, not only in Raimi movies and Andrew Garfield's world, every interpretation of Spider-Man has something that you can relate to, and this character will always be one of my favorites. I mean, I'm sure that even when I'm 40 and 50, I'm still going to be loving this character, and I'm still looking forward to these movies. And although I thought that, MCU Spidey wasn't great, and then these movies weren't that exciting, but now, I mean, after this amazing movie, I can't wait for the next trilogy. I can't wait to see what they do with him. And I'm so excited for the future of this incredible character. So that is it for this video, guys. Go and follow me on social medias because I actually shared this idea that I wanted to make a Spidey video, but it would be kind of long, on my Instagram stories, and some of you DM'd me telling me that you wanted to see it and that I should make it, so I decided to do it. And so if you want to interact with me occasionally, you can do that on my social medias, both of the links for Twitter and Instagram in the description below. And also, in case this is my last video of the year, because I don't know if I'm going to make any holiday related videos, happy early holidays, happy upcoming holidays to you guys. Hope you have fun and stay safe. And if you made it this far and enjoyed the video, leave a like. And if you don't want to miss my other movie and TV show related videos, subscribe to this channel. See you next time. Bye.